Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video going to be talking about what is probably going to be the last S19 release from Bitmain. It's the S19J XP. Looks like it is finally starting to ship. This is one we talked about a while back. I'm going to talk about the details, going to look at the specs. We do have the prices now. That's kind of what we're waiting for as far as like official real world current prices, because we'll talk about the details here in a second. We'll compare it to the others and see if this thing's worthwhile at all, right? So if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned. Let's get to this thing. So this thing was initially announced back in freaking July, guys. So it's been quite a while. Some significant delays, right? What it kind of seems like now is it's probably the PSUs what's been delaying them. So if you guys remember, what is now known as the S19K was initially announced last like April as the S19J Pro Plus Plus, right? As a sequel to the Pro Plus. And it got delayed a lot, right? The initial pictures with that one were with that new power supply, with that new connection point, right? We kept seeing it delayed. It did finally make its way as the S19K. And then again in July, this guy did get announced, and it was a very early pre-order though, right? So it did officially go for sale. Pre-order was supposed to start shipping Q4. The one thing we did know with this guy is it also had that same new power plug, right? So kind of seems like maybe they had production issues with that. Maybe that's what pushed both of those behind so much. Who knows? Pure speculation. The other weird thing we had with this one was the naming scheme, right? Again, we just had all these weird names with like the S19J Pro Plus. And prior to the S19K, again, it was going to be called the Plus Plus, which was, again, silly name. And then we saw this one, the S19J XP, combining the two monikers, making it even more confusing, right? There's the S19s, the S19Js, the S19 Pros, S19J Pros, S19Is, S19As, all over the place, right? But now kind of seeing it and seeing what's transpired since then, kind of seems like maybe they were paying homage to the S19 and kind of combining the two top models, right? It was the S19J and the XP, and maybe this is kind of like the goodbye to it, right? So in that sense, it kind of would make sense, I guess. Now that it's so much later, it seems a little bit clearer now that the S21 is not only announced, but it is here, it is out in the wild. So this may potentially be the last one. Who knows if they release more budget models in the future. But currently it looks like this is going to be the last like flagship S19, I guess you can say, right? So spec wise, 151 terahash. Let's look at the new updated site. So 151 terahash, 3,247 watts. So spec wise, it's the same, right? We have the new updated picture, still has that same new PSU and essentially the same efficiency as the XP, right? 21.5 joules a terahash, essentially making it seem as if it's just like an overclocked XP, right? So it doesn't seem like it's anything special. We don't fully know yet though, right? The one thing we do know, the PSU is going to be with that new connection point. Is it going to be the same PSU that's on the S21? Maybe that would be a potential benefit because most likely it is a beefier PSU. We know that the S21 runs at 3,500 watts in factory form. So maybe this will handle a bit better. So maybe that could be a plus. We don't know yet though. Maybe this is a special version for this guy. The other thing we don't know is the layout of the boards. Like we don't know if it's literally is just an overclocked XP or if it's a different layout, right? If it's less chips that are clocked higher or more chips that are clocked lower, right? That's kind of give us a little more insight as far as like overclocking potential and such. We haven't been able to see the type of hash boards, like are they aluminum back boards or are they the typical PCBs like the S19Ks? We kind of have yet to see. We're gonna have to wait till we see them out in the wild. But realistically, we'll do the comparisons here. So the big thing, number one, a huge change is the price, right? When this guy was originally announced, it was 33 bucks a terahash, okay? And it kind of sucks because again, the shipping window was Q4, right? And this is why we talked about in this video, it didn't make a whole lot of sense to wait all the amount of time for no like price reduction, no price discount for what is essentially just an XP, right? So still kind of the same boat. Now the price is better though. So again, kind of sucks for anybody who did pre-order. Okay, so now it's $23 a terahash, 16.1 terahash after coupons, right? So it is supposed to be shipping this month, most likely once everybody's back from Chinese New Year, so most likely right at the end of the month, right? So as far as street prices go, where it gets a little bit interesting, right? So it's $26.99, so about $2,700, depending on the vendor, right? Some of them have them a little bit higher. BT Miners is at $3K. Crypto Miner Bros has it at $33.49. This might be the pre-updated price though, right? So they do have it as out of stock. It does say February batch though, so it doesn't seem like they updated it, but maybe they're waiting till they get an update as far as how many they're gonna have on hand to update the pricing, who knows? But the current best price is $2,700. Not a bad price, but when we compare it to what else is available, so it kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? Because again, the XP currently, they're out of stock on the 134, but the 134, they had it at $22.99. And again, between buying this and then getting like an Epic board or using like overclocking firmware, so like Brains, etc., be able to get the same numbers, right? And if anything, realistically, better numbers. We've typically seen, even keeping the same hash rate, better numbers with these overclocking firmwares, right? When, depending on what you want to do, if you want to go beyond that, or if you want to underclock for the efficiency, you do have that option and that availability. The only difference here would be potentially having a better PSU, right? If the PSU does handle more wattage, then maybe you have an advantage there. Is that advantage worth the $400 though? It's up to you to decide, but realistically, probably not, right? Unless they made significant improvements on the XP. We do know there were a lot of issues, not just from like on the retail side, but a lot of farms did have pretty significant issues. More so than a lot of the J Pros, right? More than previous generations, more than what's typical, right? You'd have that 3 to 5%. Some places were having very significant issues, and I'm sure Bitmain's fully aware because again, they were repairing a lot of these things. So who knows if they did make any upgrades? Maybe they did. We're gonna have to kind of wait and see until somebody does a teardown so we can really see the internals and see what's there. As far as profitability goes, we'll look at it. We'll plug it into a calculator. So if we go and mine the ASIC, we can plug it all in here. So your daily revenue currently, again, factor in the halving. So this is currently $12.55. If everything were to stay the same, you go to factor in after the halving, it'd be $6.25, and then take out your electric. It's not looking too good after the halving. But again, there's a lot of variables in that. Most likely the difficulty, the hash rate won't remain the same after the halving. A lot of people won't be unplugging, so a lot of things will change, but something to just factor in that it's gonna be lower than what it is currently, right? But currently, as we compare it to the other models though, because right now we can't do that for a comparison, currently, this guy would make $476, whereas the typical XP, I mean, it's going to be essentially the same. So $440 for the 140, $422 for the 134, and again, it's just because it's just a lower hash rate, right? Realistically, the efficiency is the same though. All three of them are going to be that 21.5 joules a terahash. It's just because of the different hash rate allocation, right? So the game changer in all this though, and what's kind of been stealing a lot of the sales from the XP, and the reason the XP has been dropping, right? This is a pretty low price for the XP. This is the low for the year, right? And it's still not super popular. And it's because of the S19K Pro. Okay, this thing, bang for the buck wise, it has been extremely, extremely solid right from release, right? And it's been more of a go-to. It does not have those aluminum back boards because it does seem like those boards are a heat issue, right? We saw it with the XP. We're even seeing it now with the S21, right? And it's, again, this is the winter time. People were already starting to see not necessarily full-blown heat issues, but issues already right now. So who knows to say, or who knows what it's going to be like come the summer, right? So right off the rip, that made it super unappealing to the point where even prior to that coming out, we did see in the previous months a lot of farms switching their orders, right? Initially, a lot of them had huge orders for S21s or even for XPs, and then switching that allocation to the K Pros, right? And the reason being, some of it was because of availability, right? They wanted to take advantage of the pre-halving yield, and some of it's reliability issues, right? So far, it does seem like these guys have been faring well, right? And then, so on top of having a reliability plus, it's just bang for the buck wise, right? Like even right now, currently, they do have 3 variations now. Initially, it was just the 120, 115. They do have a 110 model now, right? Realistically, Probably go for the 115 or the 120, but even the 115, again, at 1449, can almost get 2 units for the price of that guy, right? And that's where things really change. Like, yes, the other one is more efficient, but is it worth that much of a price difference? It's up to you, especially considering you can get, you know, an Epic control board or, again, any overclocking firmware and get fairly close to the XP, right? You're still a little a ways from the S21, but again, when we compare this guy to the S21, you can get 3 of these things for that, right? So it's different factors. You have to see how much the efficiency is worth it to you. Currently, right now, not the hugest deal. After the halving, it will be a big deal, but for how long, right? When will that bullish action really start? When will it get to the point where you're break even or better? Who knows, right? Hopefully it's not that long. And right now, the way things are going with this ETF, it might be not very long at all, right? Especially when orders pop off again, you know, everything on chain pops off again, just when transactions go through the roof. There's a lot of variables going on. Prices are still good for BTC miners for anybody who's interested, right? So far they haven't gone up astronomically. And it's just because people know there will be a rough time after the halving, right? But again, if you're into these ASICs, it's not a short-term play. It's realistically long-term, right? So even if it's not profitable after the halving, because there is going to be a transition period, it's going to be a few weeks, probably a month before things kind of stabilize, potentially even longer, right? It just depends on the price action and how many people unplug, because there is going to be a lot of retail people unplugging, people with the old inefficient hardware, because again, right now it's at all-time high because everybody's trying to get those pre-halving yields, right? Even people with like old S9s, whatever they got, they're trying to take advantage of that pre-halving yield, and it's going to change a good amount after the halving, right? So even though it may be rough for a little while, we do know that most likely, not for sure, not guaranteed, but that Bitcoin will eventually do its thing. And right now it is priming to be a ridiculous bull market, right? Specifically for BTC. How high we go, it's up to you to determine, but if you're interested, bang for the buck wise, like we've been calling it from the very beginning, the K Pro has been probably the best bang for the buck, period, right? Anybody who got in on those initial batches when we were first talking about it did extremely well, right? And you still have a few months prior to the halving, okay? So that's where it kind of gets confusing, and we even talked about it when this guy was announced, because it's kind of like an oversaturation of the market, because at this point the K Pro still wasn't even really released. The J Pro Plus was still kind of like in the market. There was so many new ones with the XP being stagnant, it kind of seemed like a super big saturation. That could also potentially be why they delayed it, just to kind of give some room to sell a bunch of those S19Ks, and now that maybe they're gonna not produce as many, maybe they'll just push this guy instead. Who knows what the strategy is? Who knows if it was production issues? Who knows? All we do know is that this guy is here. It is out now. It is essentially an overpriced XP, right? We're gonna have to wait and see to see maybe there is some kind of potential in there. But again, at the end of the day, realistically, I would be jumping on the K Pros all day, right? So again, it's totally up to you. Everybody has their preferences. We're gonna have to wait and see if there is any more value there with these. We'll see once somebody cracks them open. Altair Tech usually does a very good in-depth job of doing that, so I'll definitely be keeping my eyes off on their Twitter account. I'd recommend you follow them as well. Very, very good stuff from them. But overall, it's kind of a dudish, right? It's hard to say. I mean, we're gonna have to see what happens though, right? It is kind of interesting that the prices for the BTC miners still haven't gone super high, right? Who knows kind of where we go. I know some of you guys are holding out, which you guys are the true degens, right? Because you're taking a whole lot of risk by just waiting, right? Like some of you guys have been asking, oh, should I wait until after the halving? It's like, who knows, man? Because if price really does skyrocket, like there's a lot of risk in waiting, right? A perfect example right now is that freaking that K7, the CKB miner. A few days ago, the thing was like $1,700. Now it's at like $5,000 within literally a day. So prices can skyrocket like that aggressively. It doesn't even have to be a 10%, 20%, 30%. It's a freaking 3x in a matter of days, right? So who knows where to happen? I don't know if it necessarily happened here because again, there's a ton of Bitcoin miners. Another one to keep your eye on is the What's miner, right? We do still have the M60. It's been holding strong, and this guy is starting to get a little more scarce, right? Because we can see even here on Nhash, there is now a MOQ applied to this, right? You actually have to order two. They will not sell you just one anymore, right? So this is one of the things to factor in. Even if prices don't skyrocket, availability starts becoming a little more scarce, right? Because then at this point, they're fulfilling orders for these big farms. Big farms may be putting in more big orders. A lot of variables at play, right? So again, that's what I'm saying. It's like a very degen play if you're dead set on getting a BTC miner and you're still waiting, you're still holding out, right? Unless you're at the point where you don't really care, you would get one if there's a good deal. Like I'm kind of in that boat, right? Like I would consider an M60 if the price drops significantly after the halving. I really don't think so. I wouldn't really plan on getting one, but if the price was good enough and the sentiment was bad enough where the prices do go low, I'd consider getting one, but currently it's just not on my radar, right? Again, I have very limited electrical. I'm definitely more on the degen side, so that's why I tend to mess more with the altcoin miners instead, right? So if I was a person who had the capacity and had capacity for 10 to 15 of these things and had a crazy electric rate like sub 6 cents, then maybe it would be more on my radar. But because I'm more in like the 10-11 cent range and I have limited space, limited electric capacity, I'm definitely 100% more on the degen side, right? That's where more my eye is, right? So currently, we'll see how well it does. We'll see where prices go, right? At this point, it's just super hard to tell, right? This ETF hype is definitely throwing a big wrench in things. It does look like we're just gonna stay here, potentially go higher. Like, it's really hard to tell, guys. I know a lot of people have been asking, oh, where do you think it's gonna go? Because of the amount of crazy variables, it's hard to make any kind of predictions on where BTC price is gonna be prior or after halving, what's gonna happen in the difficulty. It just can drastically swing anyway, right? It's just too many variables. At the end of the day, if you are interested in BTC mining, the time was way back, right? The time was all of last year when we're harping it, get in, take advantage of the pre-halving yield. But if you're still interested, prices still aren't bad, right? So just always keep in mind, yes, these calculators may not look too hot, especially after the halving, but it is a long-term play if you're interested in BTC mining, right? So let me know in the comments, guys, what you guys are doing. Are you guys excited about this thing? You guys happy with your S19K Pros? I know a lot of you guys jumped in on those. Let me know how those are doing. Let me know in the comments, guys. Please comment, like, and subscribe, guys. Thank you for watching, and I am out.